Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Monday pregame show live here on Going for Two Live Network. My name is Kyle Senra, and the Fabulous Four is here. Again, I call George Harrison. I don't know if I made that joke before, but no music shirts this week, Scott Fishbowl shirts or anything like that. But we got all four of the main co-hosts. So Gladys, welcome aboard. Isn't it fun to have the whole family here?
It is fun to have the whole family here. Alexandria's dad, we're happy to have back.
Yes.
Not just behind the scenes producing, but actual FaceTime.
Yeah, Dan's here. All the talent to bringing it from the East Coast, from Gotham City itself.
The man behind the curtain has made an appearance.
Yes, I am. I'm here behind the Google Docs sheet. I'm out in front of it all. No more daughter's birthday for another year, so we're good to go. I think what is it? 5? I got another 12 more weeks. I'm good. Yeah, we're good. I think this checks out. We're good.
Yay.
All right, and always a good show. We could talk to the fantasy sports doc, Dr. James Freddy. How you doing, Doc?
Yeah, hey guys. So if we're the Fab Four, does that make me Ringo?
Why would you be Ringo?
I'm just asking.
Bingo.
I don't know. Yeah.
Paul McCartney probably got a doctorate in something.
Okay, I'll take Paul McCartney for sure.
I bet he's probably Dr. Paul, but no one just says anything. I got a gut feeling he's got a doctorate in something.
Well, in that case, I'm going to make you guys call me Sir Doctor.
There we go, Sir. Good.
Okay.
Oh my.
Right.
Sir Doctor X.
Instead of the fantasy sports doc, it's the fantasy Sir Doc. Dr.
That's
X.
it.
Sir Doctor now. Sir Doctor.
That's it. Me and Sir Purr from Carolina. It's a very prestigious
Yeah.
title. Oh man, it's good. It's good to have the four of us back together. It's good to see everybody.
Hey, so
Yeah, we're healthy, unlike a bunch of NRs.
Yeah,
are we
you said it.
all in different time zones? No. You three are in the same time
No,
zone. right?
Dan and I. You're the one. You're the oddball.
Oh.
We're living that East Coast
We're
life.
living that East Coast life.
Yeah.
We're living that going to bed at
Time
1 in the
history.
morning after the lightning storm last night.
Exactly. What? Yeah. It was only like 11 o'clock here, so you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
What was the final score to that game? I fell asleep. I got kids and a job. I don't have that in me. What happened?
It was a lot to not enough. That was how it turned out.
38-20, I think. I also fell asleep before halftime, but I was just super tired, drove a lot. Like I got my fill at the afternoon games, and then I just couldn't stay awake. As entertaining as that game seemed like it was through, I think it was partway through the second quarter. I didn't even make it to halftime. I was just so drained. I got energy tonight, though, so let's go. Yeah.
I like it. Kyle's fired up.
I slept so much last
It wasn't really that entertaining of a game, quite honestly. I mean,
Seems like the Bills kind of like took their stamp, and
yeah, I
we're
mean,
not necessarily like a real NFL talk, but they might be the best team in the AFC now. And your Steelers beat them, Gladys, so good job.
yeah, and then they lost everyone else. Thank you.
Except Denver. Got the win against Denver.
Yeah, it wasn't really that exciting of a game, I don't think. I think that there was never any question that the Bills were not going to win that game, I don't think. Like, you never felt like Patty Mahomes was going to make that big Patrick Mahomes comeback. I'm blaming it all on Travis Kelce shaving, okay? So ever since Travis Kelce shaved his beard and mustache, they've been shit, and he looks like shit. So that is what I'm blaming it on.
If I have Travis Kelce, I'm not liking clean cut Travis Kelce. I'm liking bad boy Travis Kelce. Bring back the beard, bring back the scruff, do something.
Thank you. Do something.
I was impressed with the Bills' defense though, because I really thought that game had the potential to shoot out, and I still think the Bills could win. But the Bills' defense looked really good against them. So I don't know. I'm impressed. I really liked them last year going into the AFC Championship game. That didn't work out so well, but I don't know. You figure they got to have the leg up at this point. Definitely gave them something to think about anyway.
They look good. Yeah, how about those Giants?
What? I will say this. Okay, Gladys. Let's do this. All right. Listen. No Jones, no Barkley, no Golladay, no Shepard, no Slayton. They've gone through 4 or 5 left guards already by week 5. for a team, what do they put up? 14, 20 odd points, whatever it was, against at Dallas. I can take that and go, not bad for a team that's not in the same class as a bunch of guys that should have done the job anyway. A full-strength Giants squad. This could have been a different story, but, Kadarius Toney, the butt of all jokes for Giants Twitter and NFL Twitter and fantasy Twitter and dynasty Twitter for the best part of 5 or 6 months, 2 weeks straight, kicking it down everyone's throats. Good for him. He didn't ask for the garbage. He didn't ask to be drafted in the first round. He kind of, he had a bad offseason. He was injured and the COVID issue that he had, and then
he went to the Giants. Just an awful
lot. A lot of things went wrong for him. Urban Meyer talked him up after the draft.
That's it.
Hey, thanks, man. You know what? I'm good. I got enough problems.
Well, listen, Kadarius Toney looks like a first-round receiver, so how stupid's Urban Meyer now?
Well, he's still pretty stupid, but he got that one right.
Yeah. That's just something else.
But, this team, to be fair, John Ross was one of the first free agents they went out and got. So they knew explosiveness was something that they need. Field stretches and speed. Daniel Jones, he excels at throwing the deep pass. Whether you like him or not, he does. That's his thing. And they got Golladay that does the same thing. They built a team, whether people want to see it or not, because they don't like Gettleman, they don't like Jason Garrett, they don't like Joe Judge telling people to run laps. This team was really well built. The results were they beat Washington with those 2 calls overturned. This is a different story. And now this team's fallen apart. So, Doc will spend a bit of time talking about him soon enough. But, what are you going to do? You're down to CJ Board, Austin Mack, Caden Smith. This is what we're looking at. Oh, Kyle Rudolph, I forgot about him. He's there. He's going to turn games for us. Devontae Booker, my God. It's just turned to mush. Unbelievable. But this is the problem. Everyone's going to look at the Giants in a year's time and say, well, if they could stay healthy and get together, they're going to buy themselves another year instead of just torching the thing. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting 5-6 months for Giants fans.
We might actually start with the Giants talking injuries. First, thank you for everyone tuning in live or listening in podcast form. I got Kalen Frazier saying "Go Flock," so a Ravens fan. So thanks that. I'm sure if Foss is watching, he's thinking the same thing.
Let's go.
We'll talk about who's here or who's not available. Once again, Saquon Barkley, unfortunately, becoming a common thing. Ruled out pretty quickly, it seemed like. So enough severity. So, Doc, what do we know about Barkley?
Yeah, so this one was kind of weird. He was looking the other way. He stepped on somebody's foot, and he did a really good job of getting an inversion injury, ankle sprain. So definitely a lot of swelling after the game. But the good news is it's a low ankle sprain. Comments by Judge after the game with the X-rays suggest there's no break. So he's probably out for this week. But we'll take it from there. I mean, we kind of had the same thing with Joe Mixon last week where it looked like he was going to be out and he ended up playing. So all hope is not lost here, barring some unforeseen, issues. This is looking more like Joe Mixon than Dalvin Cook, who, has been having some on again, off again ankle issues, but it definitely looks like it's more on the mild side, despite how bad it might've looked on TV. Or if you saw on Twitter, he had a lot of swelling in the ankle. It's kind of normal, even for an ankle injury, a low-grade ankle injury like he probably has. So just watch the practice reports, but still worth picking up a Devontae Booker for this week, just in case Saquon is not able to go and this ends up being a 1 or 2 week thing. Because low ankle sprains can still be really painful, and anybody that sprained their ankle will attest to that, and it could still cost them a week or two. But he's a physical freak. So if there's anybody who could make it back from that ankle injury and play this week, then he's definitely up there.
It doesn't seem as severe as the other injuries he's accrued over the last couple, even 3 seasons. So you're saying maybe 2 weeks is estimation of 1 to 2 weeks is what you maybe expect he'll miss?
I think it could be, 0 to 2 weeks, something along those timelines. Like he could still play this week. He could miss this week and be back next week. Like it's not looking that bad.
All right, we'll stick with the Giants. Might as well. Sorry, Dan, just to pile it on, but sorry, Daniel Jones leaving with a concussion. Now, I guess part of the trickiness of the concussion is that's got, it seems like, such a wide range of how long it could be. So is there anything in particular about Daniel Jones? I guess Taysom Hill as well suffered a concussion. So do we know anything additional about either of those quarterbacks? And we'll say quarterback with Taysom Hill with quotes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think he's still
maybe Daniel Jones too. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Dan.
Oh, wow. Shots fired.
I'm awful.
Yeah, with concussions, it's definitely, it's like good and bad news, right? Like the good news is it's usually relatively straightforward. He's in the concussion protocol, and it's like you just have to kind of progress through it, which is a good thing. I mean, I'm old enough to remember back in the day where it was like guys would get a concussion, they give them some smelling salts on the sidelines and send them back 3 plays later, and then bad stuff happens after that. So this is, something where they have the protocol in place and you just kind of have to progress through it. So you watch practice reports and see how he does. It was kind of scary watching him, after he got his bell rung, kind of stumbling around in the field. Like that was, looked like a pretty significant, concussions. There's grades of concussions, and that one looked pretty bad. But he could still recover quickly. He's young. And you see this a lot in martial arts and boxing and things like that. Like guys get knocked unconscious, and then 10 minutes later they're up and they're fine. So just because it looked kind of scary in the moment doesn't mean that he can't progress through the protocol and be okay for this week and get cleared in time. So just something that we're gonna have to watch. Mike Glennon actually looked pretty good in relief. So, he's a veteran. He's been around a while. Super flex leagues, he might be worth a speculative ad just in case, and especially if you're hurting a quarterback in one of those leagues. So that's kind of my take on that. And Taysom Hill, I don't know how much he was really contributing anyway. He does kind of have these spike games where he gets involved and does some interesting things, but not somebody you're probably relying on too much. So just kind of more is what he has been up to this point, the Jameis Winston backup, in case of emergency, break glass kind of thing.
So with another quarterback that might be, a popular ad, probably likelier to be a more popular ad, and I think a lot of this is the timing, right? Russell Wilson suffering a finger injury. So what do we know about that timeline, Doc? And talking about priorities of backup quarterbacks, would you rather the Seahawks backup or the Giants backup? So we can kind of end with that once you kind of go through the diagnosis.
Do I want the current Giants backup or the former Giants backup, right?
Well, or the future Giants backup.
Oh, wow. Let's talk
I'm
Russell
really
Wilson.
sorry, Dan. I'm awful.
Because he's just piling on, Dan. I mean, that's your present for actually making it onto the show.
Listen, not everyone can be a Packers fan, Not everyone gets it. It's very easy to have, 2 Super Bowls from Favre and Rodgers. It's not like the Giants had the same with Manning in the same span. I'll wait. We don't. It's some people are just lucky. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, they beat the Patriots team that year. That team wasn't any good. I mean,
we'll see where Kyle is when Jordan Love takes over in a year's time, and everyone doesn't know what the hell's going. They'll be sitting there going, they don't have an offensive line because he's mobile and Rodgers never ran. Like, this is what we're going to be dealing with in a year. I can see it already. Thanks, Kyle.
Get your popcorn.
Let's talk about Russell Wilson.
Get your popcorn ready, folks. Okay, Russell Wilson. So this one is kind of interesting because with quarterback injuries, we see a lot of finger injuries. They bang their fingers on a helmet, thumb injuries. Sometimes there's ligament damage, but a lot of times it turns out to not be that bad. With Russell Wilson, this was kind of a really bad, almost a worst case scenario. Not the worst case, but right up there. So he injured the tendon in his finger, which actually allows you to extend the finger. So his finger at the time when he injured it was bent and he couldn't straighten it out because the tendon was completely torn. Turns out really hard to throw a football if you can't extend your finger. In addition to that, when they went in and did the surgery, they found out that he actually had some fractures. So he broke that finger as well. So they had to put some screws in there. They had to repair the tendon. This is looking like he's going to be out at least a month. My guess is it's going to be longer than that because you have to let this thing heal. So it could be up to 6 to 7 weeks. And that means it's Geno Smith time out in out on the West Coast. So I ask you guys, like, what do you think about that? He actually looked not terrible in relief, but I don't know. How does that hit you guys as far? I mean, Superflex, I think you got to add him, but are you interested otherwise?
And who? Which one?
Geno Smith, which I honestly can't believe that I'm even contemplating this, but I have to ask.
I would be more comfortable with Mike Glennon if you had people to throw to. So for me, you'd have to go to Lockett's healthy. They'll get Gerald Everett back next week.
Mm-hmm.
Metcalf's still a stud. Maybe Carson comes back. If not, Alex Collins was fine. You know, he was good. So
little foreshadowing. Carson's probably not coming back next week, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, sell, right? I think what's around Geno Smith is a lot better than Glennon working with, nothing. So, he still had 10 points. He had 10 points yesterday for the time that he came in. And, would you feel better if Saquon Barkley was playing and Devonta Booker for him to dump it off to every other play? Yeah, you would. That's the reality that Glennon's coming into a situation where it doesn't look great already. Whereas Seattle, Geno could go to Pittsburgh and okay, they might not win, but hey, he'll be all right. I think that's where he's at.
If anything, he might be helped by Carson being out in that they might just not feel comfortable running the football as much. More pass attempts, more volume. I don't think we expect Russell Wilson efficiency from Geno Smith, or really we shouldn't from any quarterback other than Russell Wilson himself. But I think the weapons and the length of time, right? I mean, I guess in theory, Daniel Jones could be out as long as Russell Wilson. Again, with concussions, we never know. But it seems like Russell Wilson's guaranteed to miss over a month.
Yeah.
So just for that, the number of starts you're going to get out of Geno Smith to me makes it like he's the bigger priority. And yeah, I definitely would prefer him.
It's super pivotal. Like, we can laugh at these two guys being on the waiver wire, and I understand that too, but super pivotal to know. Start of the bye week start this week. 3-4 teams missing? So you're looking at Lance Garoppolo. You're looking at, I think Matt Ryan's out as well.
Yep.
A handful of guys, gone. Kyler Murray, I think, is on the bye as well. I think maybe week 6. I think
they're week 12.
Okay, so a couple of NFC West teams are out. Maybe a couple of NFC South teams as well.
Jets, Saints are the other two. Sorry, Dan.
Bingo. I mean, so whatever it is, I mean, that's Jameis and that's Wilson. I mean, if you're in Superflex 2 QB leagues, that's something you have to really weigh up. Okay, is this worth either adding now or making a trade for someone else as a replacement? Then, that's something we need to really consider.
Yeah, for sure.
You might not want to play Geno. You might not want to play, Mike Glennon. You might not want to play either of them. But at this point, it's week 6, and your fantasy seasons they're starting to shape. They're starting to shape up, really. So you got to make a move for one of these guys.
So Gladys, if we got an answer for you, who would you prefer, Geno Smith or Mike Glennon?
If I'm going just from week to week, for week 6, I would pick up, if those are my two choices, I would pick up Geno because I think he has the easier schedule. Not that the Steelers their defense is that easier, but I would trust them more. I would say they're easier than the Rams to play against. But if I had to pick up a quarterback for this week for waiver wire, I would pick up the Washington football team's quarterback, Taylor Heineke. They're playing Kansas City Chiefs, who knows secondary except for Honey Badger just sucks. So, I mean, if I had
to be honest, I think
Daniel Sorensen.
Whereas I think in a single quarterback league, I feel like you probably, even at that point, I don't think you're desperate enough to maybe pick up Mike Glennon, maybe Geno, but yeah, I think Heineke, even in a 1 QB league, is probably worth having. And again, with bye weeks, if I don't know that any of those quarterbacks are a team's QB1. And if so, they've probably took them so late they're streaming anyway. I'm massively disrespecting Matt Ryan, but that's what I do apparently on the show. So, so I would, if Heineke's there, I think he's definitely over. I don't think in Superflex he's going to be available though.
Does anybody?
I was looking today. He's only in Yahoo leagues. He's only rostered in 16%.
Oh, wow.
So his roster percentage is very low, and
right.
he's probably going to be dropped a lot because of the way he played in week 5. So, people who are not long-sighted are going to drop him, to pick up. And maybe a necessity with all the injuries, you're going to have to drop someone. I would scour the waiver wire and I would pick him up. If
Good
you
point,
have to have a quarterback.
Go ahead, Dan.
Does anyone know who the QB5 was yesterday?
QB5.
Taylor Heineke?
No.
I have no idea.
We're talking Houston Texans quarterback
Davis Mills.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Davis Mills next week, he's on the road to the Colts. And if we know anything about the Colts, they like to give it up to a few receivers. We'll go over that in a bit today. But, hey, why not? If we're talking about Heineke, Glennon, Geno Smith, Davis Mills has already had, 3-4 weeks starting? Already put up a QB1 performance. Why not?
So we're saying Tyrod Taylor
where...
isn't coming back? Doc, what do we have on Tyrod Taylor's timeline? Is he not coming back?
Yeah, he's so not looking good for this week. So probably at least in one more week of Davis Mills, could be more. That's where we're at.
And they're not getting the wins, but is Davis Mills playing enough to where he maybe gets some starts even once Taylor returns? Or they look at the fact that they won those 2 games. Or wait, have they won 2 games? Maybe it's only 1 game.
They won 1. He was knocked out the second game.
Okay, so yeah, got the win against Jacksonville. I mean, that's not so impressive, but probably go back to the veteran that you named your week 1 starter. Or do you think I guess Mills hasn't played well enough yet to earn that job, but can he in, I guess, 1 week?
They should have won the game yesterday. They should have beat the Patriots. But for, some really crazy – yesterday was like crazy things happening in games, except for some crazy mishaps. So I think you go with the guy who got you the win. That Tyrod Taylor comes back in, but Taylor, as we know, has had a very kind of schleprock kind of existence as the starter and then getting hurt. So
been a little unlucky.
Yeah, a little bit unlucky.
Yeah. All right, let's rapid fire through the rest of the quarterbacks real quick. Tom Brady injured his thumb. They do play on Thursday. He's probably going to be okay. One issue I want to caution everybody on is he could still have a torn ligament in his thumb. So not completely out of the woods yet. Stay tuned on that, but thinking he's going to be okay. Joe Burrow went to the hospital with a throat contusion, but it seems like it was more precautionary than anything else. Looks like he's on track to play week 6, so no real concerns there. Trey Lance showed up on the injury report. Now, the 49ers have a bye week in week 6, but he showed up on the injury report with a knee sprain. Maybe the 49ers are playing games with us, but they already kind of gave us a cryptic comment that Jimmy G is the starter when healthy. So we're going to go around and around on that carousel for a little while. So week 7, we could be back to Jimmy Garoppolo under center, back from his calf injury. So stay tuned on that. And then checking in with Tua Tagovailoa. He could be back in another week. So just checking in on that, but he's kind of progressing, and it looks like he may be back sooner rather than later. And also wanted to touch base on, speaking of rib injuries, wanted to hit Gronk real quick for the Thursday night game. So I'm walking back the doom and gloom that I had from last week where he was kind of at DEFCON 2 and I was worried he's going to be out for the year. Gronk is just a different breed. So Gronk, if you're watching, I'm sorry I doubted you. I don't think he's going to be ready for this week, but he may actually be back in week 7. But it's looking like that sense of impending doom, like he's going to be out for the year, doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So things are looking up there. So just wanted to hit that, and then we can move on to either running backs or pass catchers, whatever.
Wait, what about Justin Fields?
Justin Fields, yeah. What was the deal with him? He kind of showed up late. What was it?
He got knocked around a bit. And he got hit real hard. I think they thought his ribs, and then I think they thought maybe a concussion, took him to the tent. Dalton came in for like one play, although they had to like suit him up because he clearly wasn't thinking that he was going to come in. And then Fields came back in to play, and they won. So, but everyone, like that was one of the games that was on here, and the talk was, oh my God, how tough is he? Look how tough he is. He played the Ohio State game injured.
Yeah.
So he's, going to be a really tough guy to get out. But my question is, if he was hurt enough to take him out of one series, And of course, the Andy Dalton is our starter when healthy. And Dalton came back in to play. Doesn't that mean Dalton is healthy?
Yeah, but Fields is a starter as long as he's upright. But I guess my issue is, and this is what I wanted to bring up with you guys with Fields, is he kind of the main thing out of all his injuries is he hyperextended his knee. So he's able to play, but it's probably going to limit him for the reason that we all really liked him more than anything else was his ability to run. So he really hasn't been running that much, even though he's been the starter. Like, what do you guys make of that? Is it a coach thing? Is he just not the game plan, just not working to his advantage? I mean, just out of respect, I'm wearing the Chicago jersey after they bounced around the Raiders last night. But anyway,
you would do that before the game.
I don't know. I was excited for Justin Fields, and he hasn't really, in one quarterback leagues, I think he's probably droppable at this point. Do you guys agree? Even if, irrespective of the injury, just performance-wise, he's just not putting up those big points, doesn't seem to have the upside. I don't know. Am I being too overreactive on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just going to go yes.
I mean, he's probably, to be fair, in a single quarterback league, he hasn't probably been playable. So, like you mentioned, though, with bye weeks coming up, you might want to have that second quarterback just in case.
Yeah.
Sure. If he's your third guy and your two other quarterbacks are healthy, okay, I can maybe get that. You only need one every week. But, if he's your backup quarterback, I don't know. The upside might not be there with any other option. Now, I think it's the offensive line, right? Like, this is not the Ravens offensive line that's able to clear those running lanes for Lamar Jackson as easily. So, in a sense, is Nagy kind of protecting him? Like, okay, if we run you behind this O-line, it's more dangerous for you than just letting you throw and maybe be susceptible to sacks. I don't know. I don't know if that math either works up anyway, but that would be like Matt Nagy logic, it seems like.
Well, I mean, their next three games are the next two games are the Packers and the Bucks. So I would count on him. When is David Montgomery coming back?
Not for at least a couple more weeks.
He's on IR, right?
Yeah.
So,
and he could be out even longer than that. That he's out 3 weeks minimum. He could be out even longer.
So I would keep Fields just because both of those defenses are giving up points to the QB. And if you have to play him on a bye week, I would feel comfortable putting him in against either the Packers or the Bucks defense. I mean, I'm not saying that Bears are going to beat either one of them, but I'm saying that Fields is going to score you some points on both.
Right. Well, I guess we'll see on that. The only thing that concerns me is over the last 2 weeks, he only has 13 more rushing yards than I do. So that's what really is worrisome. But I can get behind giving him another week or two to kind of see what happens, especially now that he's settled in as the starter. So I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah,
so
I don't think this team was built for him. That's the start and end of it. This team was an Andy Dalton built team. They were adamant. This is Andy Dalton's team, right?
It might be the scariest sentence that I've heard in the last month.
But the reality is that the way this team is set up, it just doesn't feel like any part of it was for Justin Fields. I reckon if they could have had him sit the whole year, they would have.
I don't know if anybody's stringed those words together in that order ever. This is a team built for Andy Dalton, or this is an Andy Dalton built team. Like
the Bengals kind of made it work.
Far?
That's fair.
Who's looked better so far, Herbert or Dalton? I mean,
Dalton even running decently, right? I mean, he did get hurt on that one run he made, but
it's scary enough to think of. But the reality is that Dalton's a better fit. People don't want to think about that.
It's easy to talk trash about Dalton, but he's been scapegoated a little bit with some of this. It's not his fault that they've kind of been below expectations in a lot of ways.
I mean, I hope we've been not below expectations. I know I-80 Sports coming in saying good show, guys, so that's good praise there. Shane Manel mentioning Jimmy G is the starter when back.
Shane,
because
you are so right, Shane. You are so right.
And I mean, could the same thing be said about Nagy? But I do think Nagy kind of came out and kind of changed his tune and said, okay, Fields is now the starter. Like he did. He's got this job. So I think Shanahan has yet to kind of make that commitment full time to Trey Lance yet. So maybe after the bye we do see Jimmy G back.
Okay, I'm sorry, but coach speak is not like something I'm going to count my fantasy league on.
Absolutely.
Or Nagy or Shanahan actually. Yeah.
But like Doc said, it's even if he's starting, it doesn't seem like he's producing all that great anyway. But So someone mentioned they dropped Gaskin last week for Damien Williams.
Ugh.
Contemplating dropping Ayuk this week. Should I be patient? So I mean, again, I think the context matters of who are you.
Yeah, dropping him for who?
Picking up, right? I kind of get doing Gaskin for Damien Williams in hindsight. Thinking
can't fault you for the
Williams is now the
process
workhorse in
there.
Chicago. Gaskin really hadn't been involved much, and then suddenly tons of passing game involvement. So yeah, I mean, if you could pick up the right player for Ayuk, I'm fine with it in redraft. I think in Dynasty, I would definitely be opposed to that. If you look at my Dynasty team, though, and see Ayuk there, you'd see why I'd say that. But yeah, I think redraft, I think it's fine. It, again, just depends on the player. So if I wouldn't drop him just to pick up a random player, it has to be someone very particular, kind of like you did last week, Greg, with Damien Williams. I mean, if you get Myles Gaskin back by dropping Ayuk, I'd do that. So if you can go back and pick Gaskin up, I'd certainly be dropping Ayuk. But the running back guy. I'll always usually drop an underperforming receiver to get a running back.
Yeah, the other thing, Greg, is it depends. It's league dependency. You kind of got to know your league mates and the format. So maybe it's one of those things where because of the bye week, you're trying to kind of drop them and see if you can slide them through there and maybe pick them back up. That's certainly an option too. Or if you're really hurting elsewhere and you're like, hey, look, I got a bunch of injuries and I got this guy who's underperforming and he's on a bye, then it makes total sense. He's long gone. Someone picked him up.
Yeah, seems like someone placed a waiver claim on him after he was dropped. So yeah,
Gotcha.
But yeah. So again, with Ayuk, if you've got someone in particular you want to, like Doc said, with injuries, if you're picking him up to get a starter this week, then yeah, you definitely want the points for sure. So yeah. Is anyone categorically opposed to dropping Ayuk at this point?
I'm not only in Dynasty, like you said, I'm not categorically opposed to anything. But I can't fault you for the process of dropping Gaskin for anyone because he looked terrible and he was going up against what is possibly one of the greatest run-stopping defenses that we've seen in recent memory. So sometimes unexpected things happen, and he didn't really rush for that much. He just caught a bunch of passes in garbage time, which is great, but he could go right back to being, he could turn back into a pumpkin next week. So,
It wasn't just that. It was like 10 for 10, 74 and 2.
Yeah, and that's what he does. He's done that before. The guy rushed for 25 yards. So as an actual rushing commodity, he did nothing. He doubled maybe his score from week 4. If that makes sense. It's everything in the receiving game. You look at last week too, Cordell Patterson receiving game, right? So that seems to be where these running backs are making their hay. Austin Eckler yesterday too. So incredible.
I mean, wasn't one of Zeke's touchdowns a receiving touchdown too, or were they both rushing?
I think.
Why are you going back to the Giants-Cowboys game again, man? Why are you going back to that? What's this guy's deal, huh?
Samaje Perine caught a receiving touchdown against the Packers.
There we go.
That was not fun to say out loud. But yeah. So we got a Rendon here. Got an offer. So having to give away Robert Woods, Noah Fant, and Miles Sanders to get Ridley and Barkley. Full point PPR. How is everyone feeling about this?
So I want to jump in on one thing real quick. We don't know what this Calvin Ridley personal issue is. Like, that gives me more trepidation than anything else. Like, is it, it could be anything. So before I have some clarity on that, I'm not messing around with that, especially if the other person in question that I would be getting is a guy who's injured and, could miss a week or two or more, even if it is Saquon Barkley. So that, that's kind of where I'm at with it, but I tend to be a little bit more conservative when it comes to these things. But trading for an injured guy is risky, especially this early in the season, and trading for a guy who didn't play. And maybe it was because he couldn't get his passport in time or something, because they were playing in London. So it could be something stupid like that, but it could be something a lot worse. And without knowing what that is, I got to be a little bit, I got to be a little more conservative about it. That's just what hits me right off the bat.
Just the way, I was at first I thought something too. Is it like, or was he not in favor of like some of maybe COVID measurements they'd have to do in London? I'm not sure what like their rules are as opposed to the States. Right. I would assume most countries are more strict than the States anywhere. But again, I couldn't get to the States this year when I wanted to, and Americans come to Canada. So who the heck knows? But anyway, the way the team said it, right? We are in support of Calvin during this time and respect his privacy in the matter. right? Like, I know that's just kind of bland and throwing that out there, but like, if it was just his passport, you feel like they would have just said that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it could be anything else, though. I mean, but I see your point. Like, it probably sounds like it wasn't something simple like that. Maybe it was just a COVID thing, and when they come back, he'll be wheels up again, because it sounds like he's not hurt. But you're still giving up a decent amount there. Robert Woods, Noah Fant. It's just it doesn't feel like the right time for me.
And I guess on the other side, Rendon is too, offering Josh Jacobs and Fournette for Ridley. And it sounds like I think he's saying,
you have my attention.
He's saying he has Ridley in this league. So now it'd be selling away Ridley to get Jacobs and Fournette. I mean, a wide receiver to get 2 running backs. I'm normally all in on that, but I don't know. The way
if you're having questions about that, I think that speaks volumes.
Well, volume is key, right? And I guess Jacobs volume, but how much efficiency can he get the touchdowns? I could see weeks where that combination of Jacobs and Fournette outscores Ridley. Obviously, it did this week when Ridley wasn't playing, but I mean, I could see some weeks if Ridley goes off where he outscores both those players on his own. So,
and this is true, guys. In one league, like Kyle's been playing fantasy football a lot. He actually traded. Let me see if I can remember what the trade was. I think it was Cooper Kupp for Larod Stevens-Howling. So he loves running backs. So you have to keep that in mind. He traded him straight up. He won the league, but I don't know if I would have done it. But to
be fair, you're not totally wrong. I was in a league last year where I gave up Cooper Kupp for the 208 in this year's rookie draft. It ended up being Michael Carter. So I mean that's not that terrible. Okay, speaking of it, so does the running back guy want to go to running back injuries? Sure, yeah. Well, I was thinking Chris Carson just because you already hinted at it for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So we have late breaking news.
What did you guys tell Rendon to do? Do you want to do the trade with Noah Fant and Ridley and Barkley or no?
I'm out on that one, Rendon.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, no one else.
No. So let's go around the room. Yes or no? I say no.
We already know that Ridley and Barkley aren't playing in week 6, so even if he makes the trade, he can't use it for a week, at least 2. So no, I'd rather Woods and Fant look like they're the money, and Sanders, whatever.
I don't really like, outside of Woods, I don't really think Fant and Sanders are worth much. That's my only thing, is that you're not.
How dare you? How dare you search the good name of Noah Fant?
Hey, I love Noah Fant. I just don't think they're using him enough. And I want tight ends that get targets, and he just doesn't see them consistently enough. Where you're banking on QB efficiency and touchdowns every week. Like, I feel like you can stream tight. Like, to me, Noah Fant's not the issue. It really is giving up Robert Woods. That's the only hesitation I have here. I'm fine giving up Fant and Sanders to get a guy that might not play the rest of the season, but if he does play, has a much higher ceiling than either of them, because Sanders used to be awful this year.
We're talking about a tight end in Fant. He's still punching 10 points a game for a tight end. He's a tight end 1 in that respective.
Thank you, Dan.
Where it's going to be. Yeah, I mean, I'd find that hard.
Thank you for standing up for Noah Fant, as he was heinously slandered by Kyle. Gladys, what do you say? Yes or no? Yes or no to this trade? No. Get the hell out of here. All right, so there you go. It's unanimous.
I'd rather hold on to them at the moment.
Just because Robert Woods finally had that rebound, I think I would say hold as well.
Yeah, and there could be more of that to come. Like he's a talented guy.
Yeah, I think it sounds like I would just stick in both instances. Hold the Woods side.
Rendon, is this the same guy offering you this trades? We might have to put a hit out on this person.
It's another league.
It could be the same person though. It could be playing the same.
Rendon's got a target on his back for these.
I don't think trade is awful, but I think I prefer. If I'm interpreting all this correctly, I prefer Rendon's side in both what he already has to keep.
Yes,
I'm getting really close to suggesting that you mail these people glitter bombs. I'm just putting that out there. Like
glitter bombs.
Glitter bombs. That is a thing. I may or may not have done that to somebody who sent me a really bad trade offer. So just for you guys, we're all in the same dynasty league. Just saying, there are consequences. Consequences and repercussions. Just saying.
So going for 24 endorse the sending of anything that can blow up.
Any type of explosive material. Yes.
I didn't say I endorse it. I just said it may or may not happen to somebody at some point in the future. And if it does, then you probably deserved it. That's all I'm saying.
Before we get to the Carson injury, I know we're in a pinch there, neck pinch. So the Second Take Extra asks, they mentioned they're going to lose this week. Do they drop their kicker for Tyson Williams? So they have got the Colts kicker, and you'd take those points out of your lineup to pick up the running back. How far are you behind? Are we talking you're down by 30 points? Okay, I don't think a kicker could possibly score 30 points unless you've got extreme scoring settings.
Yeah.
At that point, yeah, I'm fine dropping any kicker to get any positional player, but just on principle, on the hope that Tyson Williams becomes the lead back for Baltimore. Because if you can get him for free now and he becomes the lead guy, he's going to cost a lot more in fab, probably much more than Blankenship will. Whereas, if Tyson Williams just lays a dud, you drop him for your kicker next week. So, again,
or somebody else gets hurt or whatever. I think that's a really smart play. So I love that. I love that idea. If you know you're going to lose, if it's close, then I would say
what's that close threshold though? Like how many points we talking? I'm thinking
20 plus.
Well, I was saying if it's within 20. That's where I'm kind of hesitant because you never know against this Ravens defense if it's just all a game of kicking and Blankenship. We've seen kickers get those 20-point weeks before, so that's kind of the range where
you have seen the trend of the kickers this week, though, right? It hasn't been pretty. It hasn't.
But now, this is in Baltimore, so it is outside.
Yeah, so I'm with Doc on this one. Yeah, I like where you're going with that. I like where your head's at there. Second Take Extra.
Really smart idea.
And Rendon says thanks, no correction. So I think I interpreted correctly on which side is his in both instances. So anyway, thanks for the question, Rendon. But yeah, Chris Carson. So Doc, what do we know about you? You kind of made it sound like he's not going to play this week.
I stopped the presses. I got good news. Pete Carroll said that he took a turn for the better. So everybody just relax. It's all going to be fine. Absolutely not. Do not trust anything that Pete Carroll says. So this is still looking really bad. And could be a disc, could be, some sort of nerve issue. Definitely looking like he's having, more issues with that. Worst case scenario with this could be very similar to what T.Y. Hilton dealt with in the beginning of the year. So I'm really starting to get worried here. And, he's still DEFCON 3, but, he's trending towards DEFCON 2 at this point. It's trending worse, regardless of what Pete Carroll says. This is still scaring the living daylights out of me if I'm a Chris Carson owner. So definitely, you got to be really concerned here. That's where we're at with it.
Who do you think's out longer, Carson or Wilson?
Oh, wow. Probably Wilson. The thing is that here's the difference. So Wilson, we kind of have an established timeline. We know he's going to be out 4, 5, 6 weeks, something like that. Then he should be back. Not really a risk for a setback or anything like that. Carson is the ultimate risk reward play, in the sense that he could be out another week or two, or he could be done. He could be done for the year. So there is a pathway to him, having already played his last down for the year. So that's kind of the difference there.
Would it be in a super? Let's say you could pick up either Seahawk, Geno Smith or Alex Collins. Who would you take? And I guess it might depend on, do you need a quarterback or do you need a running back, right?
That would be my answer.
Let's say you're good at both. I guess if you're good at both, you take the quarterback value with Smith just because someone else might need the quarterback. Let's say you're needy at both, though. Do you think you can plug Geno Smith in your lineup more comfortably or Alex Collins?
Probably Geno Smith, just because you're going to get a month, maybe a little bit longer, and then you figure it out from there. 5-6 weeks in NFL time is a really long time. I'm always saying don't project more than 2 or 3 weeks. If you get a chance to actually kind of lock something in for 4 or 5 weeks, then hopefully, presuming Geno Smith doesn't get injured, then that would be my play.
And I will also maybe take a guess that maybe Alex Collins is less available in leagues than Geno Smith is, just because there was already the news.
Right. Yeah.
So those kind of provisions. I know it happened kind of late Thursday before the game, so we weren't really sure, but Collins might already be rostered. So maybe that's not the most fair question to you, Doc. Gladys, Dan, do you want to chime in on Carson, or have we talked and flocked far too much about the Seahawks? I guess that's a Ravens thing, flocking, but whenever birds have wings, that joke can fly. I guess not.
We're moving on.
All right, so Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let's change the subject.
Yeah. All right, let's continue on. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked pretty bad during the game. MCL sprain is the diagnosis, expected to miss a few weeks. Let's see if they IR him, because this could be something grade 1 sprain, 1 to 2 week deal, something like that. If he goes on IR, then we know that we're dealing with something more serious, like a partial tear, and he could be out a month, maybe longer. So you're firing up Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon in a PPR league. So this is, we're DEFCON 3 here. He looks like he's assuredly out for this week, and still potential for it to be a couple more weeks after that. Could be a month or longer. We just don't know at this point, but not great news there for sure. Even it looked like he was CEH was kind of starting to turn the corner a little bit too. So really kind of unfortunate for him. Let's touch on the stud, the consensus 1 and 2 picks in most leagues real quick. So CMC, Matt Rule is going for the Pete Carroll Injury Report Award of the Year here, based on his work last year and this year. So it looked like McCaffrey was going to play week 5. Didn't happen. Went from he looks really good in practice to he's doubtful to he didn't play. Now, once again, lather, rinse, repeat. He's looking good again in practice, and maybe he plays again this week. I'll believe it when I see it. I still am more hopeful that he could make it back for this week, but don't drop Chuba Hubbard yet. I know there were some people that dropped him after he had kind of a lackluster performance in week 4, and that impatience did not work out for you because he looked a lot better in week 5. Don't forget he's a rookie. So, this guy's got to get acclimated to things, and, he could still have some value for week 6 and going forward if they play the whole Christian McCaffrey tape all over again, where he ends up being out a lot longer than we anticipate. So I don't know how that lands with you guys, but that's kind of where we're at.
It seemed like the initial timeline you gave, you were kind of thinking 3 weeks, it might be that return just because he wasn't put on IR. So maybe it was relying a little bit too much on that too. But I guess we because it's funny because before the week started, I don't think we expected him to play this week. And then it was just those practice reports that kind of gave us the expectation. But I think all along we were all kind of preparing ourselves mentally for 2 weeks without McCaffrey. And then maybe that third week for them to justify not to put him on IR would make sense. So that kind of holds in line with this is kind of what we were expecting, right?
Yeah.
So,
one thing I want to touch on real quick,
sure,
and I kind of lay this out in my book as well, so quick plug there. But guys in the NFL, they usually come back with muscle and tendon and ligament injuries when the pain stops, but not necessarily when the healing is completed. So in McCaffrey's case, he started practicing again after a week and a half. That's usually not enough time to heal a grade 1 injury completely. So that really predisposes these guys to injuring it again or making it worse. And there's a big push in the NFL to get guys back on the field and get them working again, which I get. It's a real macho sport and stuff like that. But as far as healing these types of injuries, it really does predispose you to kind of this 1 step forward, 1 step back injury recovery process. So there is a non-zero chance that he comes back to practice and he re-injures it again, and it could be potentially worse. So we really got to just keep an eye out on the practice reports and see how it's trending. But, he's not out of the woods yet by any stretch, regardless of what Matt Rule / Pete Carroll Light says out there in Carolina. So Dalvin Cook kind of worked out the way that we thought. He wasn't practicing, and he ended up missing week 5. So here's the thing with him. Alexander Mattison looked great again. So if you picked him up, congratulations to you. Minnesota has a bye week 7. I think there's a decent chance that they kick Dalvin Cook out again and just try to get him that 3-week block to let this presumed high ankle sprain just kind of give it a real chance to heal, and then kind of see where he looks in week 8. I don't know how that lands with you guys. I mean, I could be wrong. Things are kind of weird in Minnesota. You got Kirk Cousins and Zimmer getting into shoving matches on the sidelines after they win. What's going to happen after they lose? But that's kind of strange things going on in Minnesota. But what do you guys think about that?
Gotta love those dramatic victories against Detroit, who haven't won a game yet. That always makes the team feel great.
You kind of think that bringing him back last week, Dalvin Cook, after what Madison did to Seattle, wasn't exactly the smartest thing if they knew he wasn't quite right. Again, especially bringing him back, and Detroit's almost like a layup for running backs as it is anyway. if you could hold him off until week 8 for a high ankle sprain, which we all know now because we've read this book, that it is just brutal and it takes longer than what we need. Why would you bring him back? It never made sense. I understand the whole need to win because, what were they like 0-3 at that point? Doesn't matter.
He might have pushed. In fairness, Dalvin Cook, he's got a lot of pull in that locker room with that team. He might have pushed for it. I get it. Sometimes you got to save the players from themselves.
Mike Zimmer needs to buy this book. That's what I'm hearing.
Zimmer needs injury stuff, but your fantasy team doesn't have to.
And Mike Zimmer's coming out before the game saying, "Yeah, but he's really hard, and he can come out and play."
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook might go, "Yeah, maybe I am." He might have turned it for him. So
yeah, you're right. You're right.
I think it's Madison until that happens, and he's a viable, backup when Cook comes back. We know what he does. That's it.
And the thing with Cook is he could injure other stuff when he comes back. Like his ankle wasn't even really the worry going into the year. It was the shoulders and the hamstring and everything else. So I mean.
Mid-season break for him. He's looking all right. He gets to take a few weeks off. He can head down to warmer climates, heal up.
Yeah, we go maybe hit the Great Lakes before it starts turning cold up there. All right. So let's.
The game warm-up showed him trying to come in. Cook pulled himself out. Like
he's like,
he said, the coach, he said, no, I can't do it. So I don't see him coming back.
Yeah, I think it would make a lot of. It would just be a smart play at this point in the year. Just to hold him out. We've been fooled before, but if you put a gun to my head, I say I don't think he plays this week. He may practice. I don't know if he's going to. If he's not practicing, then almost assuredly he's out. But I would be surprised if he played. Stranger things have happened. This is the NFL, but I would be surprised if he played. So let's bang through the rest of the running backs real quick. Damien Harris, rib injury, looks okay so far, but again, we've been down this road before just this year, where guys look fine with rib injuries, and then, oh, look, there's a fracture, there's a punctured lung, there's a cartilage tear. So not out of the woods yet there. Ramondre Stevenson, J.J. Taylor, and Bolden might still be viable there. But, by all accounts, he's looking like he's going to be okay so far. Antonio Gibson was interesting to me. I don't know if you guys read about this, where he was having issues with his shins. And they called it a stress fracture, which is like the nasty way of saying that it looks like he has shin splints, which is kind of funny because usually, they say like turf toe instead of like joint sprain. And, usually they use the more colorful language as opposed to calling it what it actually is. It sounds worse. But it sounds like he's just at this point dealing with shin splints. Which we could talk about really quick, which is just when the muscle kind of pulls on the bone and it hurts. And it is technically an injury to the bone. It is technically a stress injury. It can progress to a stress reaction, which is a partial fracture of the bone and then a complete fracture. So there is that risk, but people deal with shin splints all the time. So they can be managed with rest and pain medication and things like that. Anti-inflammatories. So far, so good. It could progress, but for now, I'm not really that worried. And he looks like he's doing fine.
Well, exactly. He's being productive, right? He's scoring long plays, so it doesn't look like it's hindering his ability. So that's one where I feel like Antonio Gibson, especially with all these running back injuries, he's an every week starter. Like, to me, if he's healthy, he's in your lineup. I know some people were talking like they pulled him out of the lineup last week because they were worried with the injury, but I'm sorry, Doc, but he's one of those.
Don't worry. It's we had some other options, so I was like, hey, I'm not taking a chance, and he proved me wrong. So I feel good about it. Now I feel like I can get him back in there.
That's true. Yeah, I add extra to your team. I know for my one team where I had Gibson, I didn't play Chuba Hubbard and instead play Gibson. So at least that makes me feel a little better not playing Hubbard. But yeah, I guess it is depending on how many options you have. But I feel like just with so many RB injuries, it's tough for me to not see him as a top 12 running back every week right now. But that being said, I still think McKissick is, he might also be a top 24 running back every week just because, that team's kind of hurting for weapons as well. One we have listed here, Curtis Samuel. They're already without Logan Thomas. What do we know about Samuel? It seems like groin injury.
Yeah, so moving on to that, this is just like on again, off again with him. I think you can't really mess with him until further notice. He may end up actually going back on IR, or we may find out later on that he's been dealing with a sports hernia the whole time and he may still need surgery. This is kind of like the worst case scenario that we saw with Rashad Bateman, who parenthetically should be back next week. So for any of you guys in shallower leagues, definitely see if Rashad Bateman's hanging out there because he could be potentially explosive once he gets back there for Baltimore. But with Rashad Bateman, he had a very similar injury, and they shut him down. He got surgery, and now it looks like he's going to be back right around when we thought he was going to, kind of mid to late October. With Curtis Samuel, they played around with it. They kind of shut him down. They brought him back. I don't know because he signed a big contract or because they wanted to get him out there. But you can't trust that this thing is going to be healed until he gets some legitimate time, and he may end up going back on IR. He may need surgery. So I'm really getting worried about this. It's kind of the same story. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, and I thought he could go on IR then. He comes back. He does go on IR, then he comes back, and now he might go back on IR. So really not looking good for him there.
And I mean, I think Cam Sims missed last game too. So that wide receiver depth chart, Diami Brown's out. It's Terry McLaurin, and it seemed like it was kind of Terry McLaurin and a big gap between everyone else anyway. But now that gap's gotten even further with your wide receiver 2, 3, and 4 all out.
And they lost Logan Thomas too. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. In deep leagues, maybe Adam Humphries has some value with all these other guys being injured. In shallower leagues, probably not.
I wonder.
You have to give credit to Heineke for doing as well as he has been with all these injuries.
I wonder. Seals-Jones season.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Jones, baby.
Go the tight end route. Ricky Seals-Jones. Didn't they pick up Jay Sternberger as well?
Did I think they might have? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I think he initially went to Seattle's practice squad, but I thought Washington signed him off of that practice squad. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I do agree with you, Dan. Ricky Seals-Jones to me is definitely a guy worth adding in most leagues. Seems like they poached him off the Seahawks practice squad. So Jay Sternberger is going to be on the active roster for Washington. He might be playing next week. So he could see himself being top 5 on the team in targets almost immediately by necessity. So I would think Seals-Jones has been there longer, kind of shown more athletically, shown more in the NFL in general. So he would be the priority, I think, between those two tight ends. I guess between those three, Adam Humphries, Ricky Seals-Jones, Jay Sternberger, how would everyone rank those three in terms of priority picking up?
What was the question?
So the two tight ends, Jay Sternberger, Ricky Seals-Jones, and then also Adam Humphries, like you mentioned. Between those three, who was the priority ad?
Can I take D, none of the above?
Alex Collins.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in that deep of a league, then I'd say go with whichever one you like the best. I mean, I don't know if any of them are really going to make an impact, but Adam Humphries probably has the best track record. If you need a tight end, Ricky Seals-Jones looks good. That's what kind of hits me there. I don't know. I know that's not a great answer, but speaking of deep guys that ended up playing well. Out in Chicago, real quick, Khalil Herbert, we had a Khalil Herbert sighting, and he actually looked pretty good. So he's probably somebody that was kind of understated. Thought Damien Williams was going to get a lot of this backfield work, and he did, but Khalil Herbert got a lot too, and he could be very involved going forward. So he's certainly a waiver wire guy worth a look on the waiver wire. He should still be out there unless you're in a really deep league or a dynasty league. So let's rapid fire through the pass catchers. I know you guys want to get to the NFL Monday night props. So Gladys, apologies. Juju Smith-Schuster shoulder surgery out for the year. Quintez Cephas, same deal. Fractured his collarbone, probably out for the year as well. They're talking about maybe there's a chance he comes back in week 17 or 18. Is Detroit going to be relevant at that point? The way things are looking, probably not. Kenny Galladay, we talked about a little bit. We alluded to it. He hyperextended his knee. It's looking like he's out for this week. He's still not out of the woods. This could be multiple weeks. Could be kind of like a David Montgomery type of thing. So don't be surprised if this ends. I know, sorry, Dan. Don't be surprised if this ends up being multiple weeks, but we'll keep our fingers crossed in the meantime. Kadarius Toney, I had him leading on the scorecards 10-9 after the punch that he threw that got him ejected. He had really good form, but NFL referees are tough graders. So he does have an ankle injury. Just watch your practice reports. Not really too concerned. Tyreek Hill, same deal, kind of popped up with a knee injury. Looks like he'll be okay. Curtis Samuel, we talked about. Amari Cooper is just, going for the Iron Man award. He's just gutting it out with with the hammy, the ribs. So far, so good. Keep running him out there. Just watch the practice reports. And then that brings us to the tight end. I will let you interject. Yes.
With Cooper, though, is it seems like are you worried about not starting him? Like, are you worried that at one point it's just going to get too much in a game and he's going to get pulled mid-game? Like, are you just, as long as he's active in starting games, you're putting him in your lineup because he's, it's the Cowboys offense, he's that explosive? Is anyone worried about starting Cooper at all? Obviously, it's dependent on who your options are, but
yeah, what do you guys think?
I mean, this is an uncommon territory for him, is it?
No. Which is why there's been a history of them using him just as a decoy, right? Like, I remember that Patriots game where he got, he's had 0 catches before with the Cowboys, so that's my only concern there.
Yeah.
If he's starting, I gotta play him, and if he burns me, he burns me. But I gotta run him out there.
I have him in one league, and I benched
Schultz
him.
led the targets for them, right? Dalton Schultz led targets for the Cowboys yesterday. So when Schultz, Lamb, then Cooper. So already he's starting to. Everyone else is starting to work in a little bit more while this is going on. So that's something just to take note of.
Yeah, I think as long as Gallup's out, I feel like those 3 are going to get enough targets that you start him every week. I benched Cooper week 1 against the Bucks, and in that league I've put him in my lineup every week just in case. I don't think he scored as good as that one week though. So one thing we didn't touch on Najee Harris. I did go back to running backs real quick. What do we know? Calf hamstring injury for Najee.
I haven't heard anything horrific there. So I think it's just. Got to watch practice reports and see what pops up. Gladys, have you heard anything on him?
No, I think it was like the Justin Fields injury. You go out but you're going to come back, you're going to play. There's been nothing reported that all the information has been on Juju.
Yeah, I've literally heard nothing about his, I don't even know if it's a thing. So just something to keep an eye on, watch practice reports and see if it progresses to something.
It looked late in the game as well, so that could have been just cramp.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I guess Benny Snell's the main backup, but I don't know if anyone's rushing out to go grab him.
Yeah, but, bye weeks and injuries coming up, if he ends up missing, it's just something to keep an eye on. Always good to have these guys on waiver wire speed dial, so it's a good call out that he would have some value if this turns out to be something. Right now it doesn't look like it, but in the NFL, things move fast, things happen fast, So it's definitely a good idea to keep those guys on the radar.
Apparently our injury report is not in the NFL because that took a while. Thought we went thorough, though, and some important topics there to broach. But for tonight's game, Colts-Ravens.
Hey, I hate to do this to you. Last 2 guys I want to touch on.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Max Williams looking bad, pending an MRI, but fearing the worst there as far as his knee. I think he's probably done for the year. And then Travis Kelce, the Iron Man. He has a shoulder injury. He got a little bit of a stinger, which we talked about. It's a nerve injury that kind of runs down from the neck down into the arm. He's super tough. He doesn't miss games, but these things can linger. We saw this with Elijah Mitchell, so just something we got to watch. I'm not really too concerned about it now, but we got to see how it goes. I don't know who you fire up if he's out. I mean, I know they got Noah Gray, but I think he dropped down to 3rd on the depth chart. I don't even know who the backup would be or if you'd even be interested. Maybe then I would go pick up Jay Sternberger.
Blake Bell.
Blake Bell,
okay. Was the other tight end. I think he was a Cowboys backup at one point.
I think so. You're right there, Dan.
And Samaj P. Ryan hit the COVID list. We don't know what the story is, if he actually tested positive or was a high-risk contact. So we just got to wait and see on that. Okay. Now I'm done.
I would say with just the Chiefs thing, I think you'd rather just go with wide receivers. Pick up Byron Pringle. Maybe pick up DeMarcus Robinson more than the backup tight end because it seems like the Chiefs will just morph to whoever they have.
Josh Gordon.
He's
back.
Yeah, no, that's true. So I would prioritize them over Blake Bell because I feel like they'll just change the offense and not target the tight end as much if Kelsey's not in there. That the reason they target the offense the way it is because Kelsey's there, right? So I think Reed will just totally change up the offense. I think you'd rather go with wide receivers. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that one.
That was an emotional roller coaster injury. Thank you for going. Thank you for going on that journey with me. Okay.
Colts Ravens. This will be quite a journey tonight. So over under set at 46.5. With the Ravens as 7. I think I might have put this in wrong. Was it 7.5 point favorites?
It was.
I know you said
it's come up from 6.5 to 7.5 in the last 24 hours.
All right. So props. So our prop polls, again, done by producer Dan. We did Carson Wentz and Lamar Jackson, the passing yards. Their numbers are actually pretty close. The over-under for Wentz is 224.5 yards, and this is all on BetMGM. So 224.5 passing yards for Wentz, 223.5 for Jackson, so just 1 yard less. And the unders were the popular ones in the poll. Wentz under had 26% of the votes. So what are people thinking? Are people agreeing with the people, or is that anyone want to pick the overs on either of these?
Wentz over 1 at 32%.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong. Sorry. Yeah, never mind. Wentz under at 26 doesn't win the poll. It's Wentz over. My mistake. Thank you, Dan. Maybe Dan should be reading these off, not me.
No. You're doing fine, Kyle. Keep going.
Doing mostly fine. So anyone have any preference on either an over and under here for the quarterbacks?
It's quite extravagant for Lamar Jackson, considering he can't throw, right? And Carson Wentz can, to be trailing him by a yard. What are we like? I think Lamar Jackson's going to hit that pretty comfortably over 223.5. I've got him over for that. Yes. I'm not normally the over on that, but yes, today, Jackson over 223. I could see Carson Wentz having to chase and falling pretty aggressively.
Lamar's hit the over every game this season. His season low so far in passing yards is 235.
Yeah,
I think the only reason it won't happen is if they blow out the Colts so much that they just don't throw it at all. But they've also been running so poorly that I kind of feel like they know if they want to win a Super Bowl, Lamar Jackson's going to have to win the game throwing. So they might want to do that even in a game where he doesn't need to throw it to kind of prove that you're not afraid to throw it, right? That, we got the big lead, have to go back and running. They might want to – I remember this was a close game last year, right? I mean, against Phillip Rivers, Jackson, I believe this was last season when the Ravens came back against the Colts. It was the first ever double-digit point deficit that Lamar Jackson had ever come back from. And it was good Colts defense last year, right? So do you want to repeat that good juju against this team and kind of not have to deal with them, right? You don't want to have to see this team in the playoffs. Well, maybe you do actually. Yeah, never mind. You'd like that. But yeah, I think I like the Lamar Jackson over much more than Carson Wentz. So I'm a little surprised they have Wentz at more yards, personally. Just from a team being down by 7, or 7.5 now, I'd expect the favored quarterback to still have more passing yards if they're that much of a disparity. So and I know it's Lamar Jackson. Not everyone likes him passing, but yeah. Gladys, anything? Any words about the quarterback lines?
No, I don't understand. No, I don't understand Wentz's lines. I don't.
Crazy, right?
Yeah,
it's. I mean, half of his numbers would feel like they're skewed considering he was injured the first few weeks of the year. So I can't assume his numbers were overly massive. The Colts only averaging 214 passing yards a game. They're giving him 224 today. So they must think that he's going to chase and go 10 yards better than what he could be.
Yeah, I don't understand the Wentz's line. I would go over on Jackson, but I don't get Wentz's line. Did we have a passing and rushing for the quarterbacks?
No. Kind of, yeah. Actually, yes. Rushing. Actually, yes, they are in the rushing prop.
Let's get to that right now. I know Gerson's asking, does Lamar score 40 fantasy points tonight? If he hits the overs on his passing and his rushing and he gets a touchdown, he probably needs at least one rushing touchdown in there. His passing touchdown rate it's been pretty good so far this year. What's he at? He's at
I think he's got 4 for the year.
Actually, he's at 3.2. That's awful for Jackson. Never mind. Not so great. Interesting. His career average is pretty great, though, so I expect some bounce back there. It could happen. I wouldn't bank on it, though. Sorry, G.
Hey, G.
Gee, you were supposed to get back to me on these prop bets. I'm tanking over here. You talked about it on the Sunday show. You're like, I can't do prop bets because I'm in Utah. Well, now's your chance, buddy. So
help us out. So we've got. Sorry, Gladys, go ahead.
No, what's Jackson's passing and rushing? What is the over-under for him?
So they've got the over-under at 60.5 rushing yards. So I'm guessing the combined, they probably just put that together for the combined total of 284 combined. So that's 60.5 rushing, 223.5 passing.
I was told there'd be no math.
I know, right?
I just did the math for you guys.
Okay, so 280 passing and rushing. We're getting
284 combined.
284 combined. Oh, I don't know. I mean, they're 7.5 point favorite. Colts defense isn't what's hurting them; it's their offense. Yikes! I don't know. I'm gonna have to take a quick pass on that. I thought I would like it, but I don't like it as much as I thought I would.
Hey, listen. Sometimes the best bet you make is the one you don't make. So.
Amen.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah,
I'd be honest.
MGM might not agree with me.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the combined one available, but I'd like Lamar over on both. I mean, in the combined one, if that was available, I think that might be my favorite, just because there's a chance he hits that passing. I mean, the last 2 wins, he's hit over that in 2 games they've won. So even if we expect them to, and I know one of those was they barely beat the Lions, but they smashed the Broncos, and he had a season high 316 passing yards. So even in a blowout, I think he's gonna hit over on both these. So
they barely beat the Lions with Marquise Brown dropping about 80 to 90 odd yards for him.
So that would have been again more yards there too. So
he would have been there. Yeah.
For whatever it's worth, Miles Boykin is back, so at least theoretically he's getting another weapon. So that's something.
Better than Willie Snead, right, Foss? If Foss is watching. Just for other rushing yards. So the funny that with the quarterbacks, they've got Carson Wentz at over under 9.5 rushing yards.
Yep.
Just what has he done this year on the ground? I'm going to pull up his rushing numbers right now.
Guy's running on 2 sprained ankles.
Exactly, it's 2 sprained ankles, and he's running.
You know what? It's low enough. I might take a shot on that one. Why not?
He's hit the under the last 2 games. He has 8 combined rushing yards over the last 2 weeks.
Hey, this is the week. Roll the dice.
Brutal. You know what would be horrible? He has 12 rushing yards, and then they win the game, and he takes 2 kneels, and then you lose. Like I could see that happening too. And I need to buy a new television.
That would be very Carson Wentz.
That would be gut punch city. So I could see that happening too.
I hope.
So some other rushing stats: Latavius Murray over under 50.5 rushing yards.
I always feel like the Colts, their rush day is pretty good generally. I find, but Murray's probably found the best form of his life at the moment, so I could see that happening. My favorite one would be Jonathan Taylor, if you want.
Yes.
Jonathan Taylor combined rush yards and receiving yards over 72.5.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah, I'm about that life.
Yeah,
I think like that one.
Yeah.
It would have to be certainly combined. I know a note that Dan you put on here. Ravens have not allowed any player to rush for 60 yards in a game this season. So that's one where if he gets 50 rushing yards and 23 receiving yards, it's there for the combined.
The follow-up note also says Taylor has 8 of such performance in his last 10 games. So he's
think about how highly we thought of JT coming into the year. Like he's still that guy. Like this, like let's see it. Like
that
could be the day.
He might be the only Colts line that I'd go over on. I don't really feel comfortable with any of their other lines at any other position. Like I don't really like either Wentz stats.
The idea that Carson Wentz won the poll at rushing over 9.5 yards.
Yep, 33%. Barely beating Taylor though. I'm reading this properly. 32% for Taylor. I know so what we had in the poll was Jackson under, which is why he only had 15% of the votes, including someone named Kyle Senner who voted without really reading properly and voted for Jackson. So sorry to skew the results there slightly. It really should be less than that. I probably would have voted for Taylor, so that might have been enough to win the vote. So this is all the false, and it's all wrong because of me. I'm so sorry, everyone.
You know what? I thought I was being tricky when I put the polls in. I thought, well, it's very easy to say Lamar Jackson over, but how many people think he won't? And I thought that would be more telling. 15% said, yeah, no, he won't do it. So I'm guessing 85% think he will. There we go. I'm pretty sure.
How many other of those 15% are like me and didn't read it properly anyway?
Probably a few.
Read, folks. Always read. I like math, but you should also
going back to my
comment
SAT prep courses. Read the question. Read the question.
So the question here from James Zahu: trade Damien Harris for Leonard Fournette.
James, good to see you again, buddy. I'm about that life right there, as Dan would say. Give me Lombardi Lenny.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm with
Fire it up.
On this. It's clear that he's the number one in that attack. They seem to be very pass heavy, and then he does what he does in between, and he's finding gaps because no one wants to really worry about him. You got to worry about Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Gronk when he comes back. Who cares about Leonard Fournette? Give him his 7 or 8 yards every time on 10 carries, but before you know it,
PPR, give me those 4 catches for 40 yards. He sneaks in a touchdown because they're scoring 50 points a game.
Yeah, Listen, I mean, it was promising to see Gio Bernard. Bernard popped up with a touchdown this week as well. So
there's plenty of pie to go around down there in Tampa Bay.
If you are someone that's
and it ain't humble pie either.
If you are looking for a waiver wire ad, and we're looking at guys like Devonta Booker, why not Gio Bernard? I would rather Gio Bernard in a team that you know is going to throw to him and he's going to get those opportunities than Devonta Booker, who, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I would rather have Gio Bernard with a sprained MCL than Devontae Booker completely healthy.
Devonta Booker is probably the only guy in the NFL that could fall forward and still lose yards. Right? So that's what you've got in Devonta Booker right there. So Bernard, at least, he might only get 5, 6, 7 touches in a game, but they're all meaningful. And that's what I think is important about the Bucs with what they're doing.
I love it.
Gladys, anything to add to that?
No, I can't. What can I add? What can I add to Dan's eloquence? I have nothing. I've got nothing.
Sorry, Dan, but I actually thought the best point of that was and you followed up on it too, but like with Doc, you said, they score 50 points, right? Like this team scores points. I think, what offense do you want to be tied to? The Patriots offense to the Bucs right now? Damien Harris probably had more. He has less competition at running back, especially with James White out for the season. He's like, if he's healthy, he's probably going to get most of that work. But again, bigger slice of a much smaller pie.
Yeah,
I agree with Doc.
The other thing with Harris is he keeps kind of fumbling around the goal line, and Belichick doesn't really like that. So there's a non-zero chance Belichick could just get really pissed off with him, and he grabs the bench with both hands too, irrespective of anything else that we talked about. I mean, I think Fournette's the better play regardless, but
I don't think there's any going back from Leonard Fournette. That's it. They'll sprinkle in Bernard now, and Jones is there as break in case of an extreme emergency. Fournette's their guy, and Brady trusts him, and that matters more than anything. I don't care what Belichick wants from Harris, because you don't know what they're going to do. That's the problem. The Bucs are going to march forward every single time they get the ball, and Fournette's going to be out there majority of the time, and I'll take that every time.
I'm not as convinced of that, but again, I agree Fournette's the play. But even if he's not, I think, again, the upside of the offense, because last year he barely got the ball, and it was the Ronald Jones show. At what point this season do they go back to that? Maybe even just in an effort to save Fournette. What they probably want to do is ride Fournette hard in the playoffs. So at a certain point, are they going to take the brakes off that so he doesn't get hurt? But even in that instance, I'd still rather have Fournette and just, again, get that better offense. So the receiver props, even though it'd be a little late now, game has started, so you can't catch these props anymore.
Second half,
the best ones, I don't know if I think everyone agrees the best props were the Jackson lines and Jonathan Taylor. I think those would have gone for, so we think we all did a good job outlining them. Receiver props now. So 2 Ravens, 2 Colts here. Marquise Brown over and it's all receiving yards. Marquise Brown over under 55.5.
You didn't read. They're not all over. No.
Well, I'm just giving the over underlines, and then I'll say the full after.
Oh.
Well, because it's not like the over is different. Like if the over is 55.5, the under is also 55.5.
That's not what people voted for, though. It's not what people voted for, though.
Okay. I'm just okay. So this is the poll that Dan put out. Marquise Brown over 55.5 receiving yards. Sammy Watkins under 39.5.
There we go.
Go to the Colts side. Michael Pittman under 52.5. I almost said over. And then Paris Campbell over 20.5 yards.
I'm just making sure you read it,
interesting.
Kyle. I'd hate for you to do a poll and not read it, Kyle.
Yeah, I know, right? Fair enough. So who wants to talk about the Lions?
Got him.
Well, if you're so obsessed with the poll, Marquise Brown smashed this poll. 59% of the votes.
Smashed.
On that over.
Smashed.
Yeah, for sure.
It seemed like the obvious one to me too. Is anyone disagreeing that that's the one they would choose?
No, I do not disagree.
I do not disagree.
I tend to disagree.
Of course you do.
Really?
I am going with Sammy Watkins, and he had the least percent voted on. He had under.
Sammy, you're going under on Sammy Watkins?
Well, to go with Kyle, I think Sammy Watkins is going over.
Okay, yeah, I'm with that.
Marquise Brown is where we're at. So I'm just going to assume that 93% assume Sammy Watkins hits the over this week. That's where I'm at with this. But yeah, Marquise Brown.
That 20.5 for Paris Campbell to me is tempting. That's so low. He is the type of kind of play after the catch ability that a screen pass that he could take. He could get it all in one play, and I kind of like those lines. They can feasibly get that in one play. So I do like Brown's over though, just because he has been. I mean, he just has to catch them. If he doesn't drop the passes, if he drops them,
he's going over.
But I think the one funny because the one I would not want to pick is Pittman over, so that would almost tempt me to say that's the poll pick because that was under in the poll. But I don't know. That one's a little scary to me. I definitely wouldn't want to pick the over on Pittman.
No,
I don't know that I'd.
I guess the question I have for you guys with these props is it possible for there to be? I'm sure there is, but what are your thoughts on there are two bad choices? You just said I don't like the over, but you don't like the under either, and that feels true to me too. I'm I just don't like this bet. I don't want any part of it. It's I don't like those on the, but I don't necessarily want to play the under either.
Yeah, the Wentz one.
I could see Wentz.
Yeah, real weird.
Because they could be down so early that based on pure volume, he ends up getting 25 passing yards. But I also could see the scenario where he doesn't get 200 because the Ravens defense suffocates him so much. So I feel like Carson Wentz lines I would stay away from. I feel like Pittman's the same one.
Or Wentz gets hurt. Again, he's playing on two bad ankles. So there's that. There you got to account for that too.
Well, as it goes in, with a few of these notes, Carson Wentz in his career versus the Ravens, 52.4% completion rate and has 4.7 yards per attempt, both the lowest versus any opponent he's played twice. He struggles against the Ravens. So this is a thing that he has, and now you got a guy with two dicey ankles at best. That could be a bad day for him.
Hey, Fantasy
Podcast. Thanks for. Yeah, it says sup y'all, happy Monday Night Football. So thank you very much for
you. Thanks for watching.
I guess
what, Gladys?
Boston is leading Tampa Bay 5-0.
Ooh.
Oh, you're talking baseball.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a surprise.
Yeah.
Boston, I don't know. They look like they might have that magic back this year. I don't know. It's really interesting.
As a Packers fan, should I ask how the Brewers did? I don't know. I don't care.
We're gonna get you into baseball at some point before you're gonna get off hockey and you're gonna be a baseball fan. You wait and see.
Okay, rant coming here. How did the Blue Jays missing the playoffs with a better record than several teams that made the playoffs? That's what I'm all about. So I'm not interested because the Blue Jays didn't make it when they should have. But that's me.
Fair.
That's my rant.
The wild
baseball
card
rant for the day.
Revamped anyway. So you're preaching to the choir on that one. I would have loved to see the Blue Jays in the playoffs.
I'm a Mets fan. So I'm just glad I'm a Mets fan. So I'm glad
the season's over.
Just glad the season's done. You don't have to read about him anymore.
The weather was good. Yeah, fair enough. So to get to the final game predictions. Again, the over-under set at 40. Again, 46.5 here. Dan, you said this went up. No, sorry, it was the spread that went up. Did the over-under stay the same?
It's set at 46.5.
Okay, so they're just pushing more towards the Ravens. So again, so do you guys like that? What side over under here on this game?
if I said 20, Ravens win 28-20, we hit the overs. Ravens take that 7.5. I could see that.
Wow.
Can the Ravens get to 28 points? Yeah. I feel like they can. So if the Ravens can get to 28, I think they can carry the rest. So I find the Colts so hard to watch because I don't believe in any of them aside from Jonathan Taylor. And I just find them very hard to digest. I don't know what receiver I want to get behind. I don't know what tight end I think they're going to this week. Nyheim Hines is going to come in and ruin everything. No, but I mean, prove me wrong. And we don't know what Carson Wentz really is because it was all set up for him to come in and go nuts. He was hurt in the preseason, hurt week 2. And then we're back at square one with what are we doing with the Colts? So I find them very tough to figure out. Pittman's looked pretty good. And Paris Campbell's finally getting there. And what are we doing? Zach Pascal again?
Did you see this guy's question? Do you see the running backs he has? How is that even possible in a league? How can you have Zeke, Kamara, Montgomery, Henderson, Mixon? I don't care. But that's
Is it an auction? Was it a dynasty?
Are you kidding
yes,
me?
you should.
Superflex, maybe, and they decided to punt the quarterback?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes. So the question was, should I go with Debo and Josh Jacobs for Cooper Kupp? And I don't need to know the format. The answer is yes. Especially your other running backs being Zeke, Kamara, Joe Mixon, David Montgomery, and Darrell Henderson.
16.
It's a 6-team league, which get the stud. Yeah, I think that's even more of a reason to do the trade. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Don't give me a question. It just hit yes, go.
Yeah. You want to stack this lineup as best as you can.
1,000%.
Yeah.
So I know
Pittman.
Fantasy Futurist podcast saying Pittman is significantly better than any other Colts receiver.
And that's telling because. So what about the rest of them? They're fine. That's the problem. I like Pittman. I really like Pittman. I think he can be awesome in the next few years. This year, I hope he breaks out a bit more. But what are you doing with the rest of them? That's it. It was Seattle against Seattle. Jonathan Taylor 6 for 60, right, in the receiving game. Nyheim Hines will chip in. I find it very hard to break them down in regards to a receiving game and what they're going to do because they're just, I
don't know about you guys, but I miss Dan's rants. Did you guys miss Dan's rants? Because I sure did.
Yes.
I miss these rants.
12 more weeks.
I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it. I love it. I love it.
Now, it's funny that I agree that Pittman is much better than any other Colts receiver, but Zach Pascal has more fantasy points this year. So what does Pittman being better really do for him, right? I think if he had a better quarterback, maybe he'd be able to showcase that difference more, and he would significantly outproduce Pascal. But I just think the quarterback play has been so poor that, really, Pascal's been doing it with touchdowns only. That's what you need. You need Pittman to be the touchdown guy, and it seems like he hasn't been yet. So,
what are you playing Pittman as? Are you playing him as a wide receiver three flex?
Well, I've got one team that I kind of put in receiver position and drafted him as my wide receiver 1. So that league, he's an every week starter, and there's no choice.
Sure,
but I'm going to assume most people aren't in that situation with Pittman.
Sure. So if you're looking at him as a flex, you're looking at this week, you're looking at the Monday night game, you're probably not playing him anyway. So as good as he is anyway, a Monday night, you're probably not waiting for him to play against Baltimore with your game on the line from your flex. It's probably not happening anyhow. Unless you have him as your wide receiver 1, because that's how you punted the position. I understand too, but unless this is what you're doing, I don't know why you'd want to rely on that on a weekly basis. Because I find them very hard to break down and assess because I don't know what they're doing. I feel like they have as much identity as the 49ers do. They're all over the place.
Yeah, true. And I guess that, yeah, that's fair. So just Jim, just again, talk about that trade for Cooper Kupp. 1-4. They're 1-4. They need wide receivers because their wide receivers are Ridley and Allen. So Keenan Allen. Yeah, maybe not a little disappointing, but wide receiver trade targets. I think you're on the right path of going for those elite guys, selling high on Debo, giving away another running back. Heck, I know Gladys, you mentioned it. even if it's, let's say they don't want Josh Jacobs, they want Mixon instead. Like, go for guys like Cooper Kupp. If you can, Devontae Adams. I don't know that he's necessarily attainable. A.J. Brown working his way back from injury. He might be a little lower. People might be losing a little patience with him. I know he did play last week, right? I don't think he produced massively.
Go and get Antonio Brown.
Yeah, true. There you go.
Go get Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's like a top 15 receiver at the moment, and no one wants to talk about him.
Yeah, no one wants to believe in it. I mean,
but then so would Debo, right? Isn't that the case for Debo? Like, I feel like you're trading, like, because Debo's also probably a top 10 guy right now, but no one wants to.
I feel like that's totally different atmosphere. I mean, Debo, you're also forgetting about the soft tissue injury history that he has. So it's like he's playing in a tree right now. Do you really think that's going to continue? Number one, he's on a bye this week, and he hasn't gotten hurt yet. So, and I think he's at his ceiling. Whereas Antonio Brown, if you told me that he could continue this kind of average production for the rest of the year, absolutely.
No question. It's no question.
Absolutely.
But I mean,
that would not surprise me one bit.
I think Debo's clearly turned into the alpha on his team, whereas I don't think you could really say that for Brown.
Brown doesn't. We talked about it already. Brown doesn't need to be the alpha. He doesn't need to be the alpha. He could be the third, fourth option. He's going to get points, baby.
This was Debo Samuel's first start with Trey Lance this week, right?
Unless you want to count the half a game that he got when Jimmy G got cleated.
Do you want to bank on them trying to figure it out between Trey Lance and Debo Samuel, or do you want to go to what really looks like?
Or you want to bank on two Hall of Famers?
That's it. Like it's Samuel's looked fine. He's looked really good when they were chasing teams with Jimmy Garoppolo and some Trey Lance sprinkled in. Antonio Brown looks like Pittsburgh 2017 Antonio Brown. He looks ridiculous right now. And okay, Miami aren't really that, but on any given week, Antonio Brown's going to do that every week. It's scary. What the Bucs are doing right now is ridiculous.
And for me to advocate Antonio Brown into the screw job that he pulled on the Raiders, that should tell you more than anything else.
Come on, it doesn't take much for the Raiders to screw themselves.
That is facts. That is big facts, my friend.
Much.
Although now the stuff he said about Mayock, it seems like that was almost misplaced, and that really should have been directed towards Gruden. But I digress.
I'm not touching that one.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's Gruden bringing it upon himself. Like, that's if. Yeah, whatever. I will say I've never heard that expression to say someone has. I've heard loose lips. I've never heard Michelin tire lips. Right. So like, so
what happened, Gladys?
Jonathan Taylor 76-yard touchdown run.
Boom.
Hit the over. Anyway, apparently Fantasy Futures Pod loves your rant, Dan. I don't know about mine.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, everyone loves your rant.
I'm here for it all year.
So he's saying, Pittman is flexible in deep leagues. Yeah, deep enough leagues. Again, I've got deep enough league where I'm starting him every week because I don't have a choice.
Pick him up.
Brown is on waivers in that league. My God.
Pick him up.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Well, again, 6-team league, not deep, right? That's why I'm saying you should be able to, like, Debo's the wide receiver 3, and I don't know if this is full point or half point, but right now in half point PPR and in points per game, he's wide receiver 3, right? And I mean, he has it's been volume. Like, it's not like he's just breaking it and getting lucky. Okay, there have been a couple lucky big plays, but for the most part, he's getting the volume. So I say shoot higher than Antonio Brown. Go for those guys that you know are going to be top 15 receivers every week, because the Brown, we've seen the floor with him too this season. It's not that great. A team decides to blanket cover him. Brady's not going to force it to him if he doesn't need to. So I go for, again, like AJ Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, someone who legit could be the wide receiver 1, I think, is where you kind of shoot, which is why I think Cooper Kupp is the perfect trade. So, like, I say go for that. If you have to give up more than Josh Jacobs alongside Debo to get Cooper Kupp, I think you're on the right track there. So, yeah, don't overthink it, J-May.
You don't have to pick. You don't have to pick.
Do both. I say do both.
There could be people that are out there that are upset with
It's
Justin
a full
Jefferson.
PPR.
Yeah.
You look at a guy like Justin Jefferson.
Like you said, he can pick up Brown for free.
Yeah.
Oh, my mistake.
DK
It was
for
a pass. It was 87-yard pass, not a rush for Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, so there you go. Carson Wentz might hit the over now.
Carson Wentz, baby.
DK for Diggs.
I still don't like it.
We're going a little over here.
He's already at 102 passing yards.
They still don't like the over.
So, well, we certainly go over for time here, but DK for Diggs, who wins this trade? I'll be honest. I know Diggs has been struggling right now, but DK's about to have to play with Geno Smith. I say get out now and go for Stephon Diggs.
Diggs.
Totally agree.
Diggs.
Totally agree.
Dan?
Oh my God! Don't tell me you disagree.
Are you serious?
No,
Are you serious?
No. I would say that I feel okay no matter what, because if you're Geno, you're launching it to DK Metcalf every chance you get. So what might lacking quantity, it might be quality, it might be quantity. I would say that, but Diggs for sure. But I wouldn't panic if someone has DK Metcalf, because you saw when Geno came in, he had laser eyes for DK Metcalf, and that was it. So
well, except for the Tyler Lockett interception.
Yeah.
And the one time he straight away, look, if you're Geno Smith, you're probably going one time, Tyler, one time.
Oh man.
Get
Rashad Penny out of here. Yeah. Are you concerned about Diggs? And I'm not, and I've got a very specific reason why. Even though he's spreading out, I look at the targets. 13, 8, 10, and 10. And yeah, he hasn't been the most productive with those. Only one touchdown on the season. But yeah, I think with that type of, even with Allen spreading out, if Diggs is going to see double-digit targets every week, eventually the numbers and the production is going to come, and eventually those touchdowns will as well. So
yeah,
I think
those are AFC Tampa Bay as far as I'm concerned. Everything we talked about with Tampa Bay, same thing applies, except Diggs is kind of the alpha in that, in that scenario.
And I mean, Rendon's talking about the fantasy playoff schedule. He thinks Diggs has a better schedule than what Metcalf does down the stretch. Yeah,
he's right. It is Emmanuel Sanders' world.
Oh, Izzy, I missed you. We were talking props. You're my research squad for props.
Thanks,
you weren't here. I needed you.
Propless for this game. Whatever.
Doc is just recruiting everyone. Gerson, Izzy, whoever can come down to help.
Obviously, I need help. It's like you gotta know what you know what you don't know, and know when to ask for help. That's my motto. And these guys know what they're talking about. You need injury info, you come to me. You need prop bets, talk to somebody else.
Fry in truffle oil. Yeah. I don't even know what do you do with that? I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. Fun. Can we say that on the air? I don't even know.
What is that? I don't even want to know.
Yeah,
we're late enough. I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a feeling, Dan. I thought that's what it was.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. We'll have to get. I guess he's saying I need your info, Doc. I don't know if it's to contact you or if it's because he wants medical advice on the truffle oil.
Well, we'll have to talk offline. Hopefully, the truffle oil hasn't completely kicked in yet.
All right, I gotta go. Jack is like.
Yeah, let's get out of here before we hit the 2 hour.
All right,
mark.
Sorry. One last question. Should he worry about Keenan Allen because Herbert only started to target Allen in the fourth quarter?
You shouldn't worry about Keenan Allen ever. Don't worry about Keenan Allen.
I think don't worry about him, and I think he's still startable every week. But I think accept the reality that he's not the wide receiver one on that team. At least not from a fantasy points perspective. It is Mike Williams, and I don't know if that's something that's going to continue into next season. I mean, Williams might not even be there next year. Maybe the future might be.
I can't imagine that. Not a chance. He's not a charge in that. What?
They'll find a way to keep him. I think it started.
Somebody drops the bag on him. He's gone, baby. Like he's in a walk year and he's having a monster season like this. They're gonna have to pay out the nose to keep him.
They have paid guys. Listen, they have paid guys like Bosa and they have paid Eckler and they have paid Derwin James as well, right? They've paid some guys. Yeah. I don't know what their cap room is like. If this is the connection that your second-year quarterback has with a guy that you spent the 7th overall pick on, you pay him.
I'm just saying, stranger things have happened. I mean, I agree with you completely, but stranger things have happened.
Here's why: because you end up paying $45 million for 4 years for Kenny Golladay. That's what happens if you don't. So, this is why you pay Mike Williams if you know that you've got what you've got is good.
Anyway, so I think is the wide receiver one on the Chargers now. So, as an Allen manager, like accept that reality, and he's still fine. He's number 2 target very clearly on that team. It's a fairly narrow target tree, and those two at the top do take a ton of it. I think there'll be more weeks where he'll get more targets. Like there's weeks where he's the first target on the first play of the game sometimes, right? So the fact that he didn't like you said, Jay, he didn't get target much till the fourth quarter. That seems like an aberration to me. I wouldn't say that's going to be the reality every week.
All right, gents.
What a game that was, though. Yeah, and what a show this was. Quite a monster episode. So on the screen, you can Twitter accounts. Gladys is at L. Tyler. Dan's at the B League Says. Doc is at T. FS Doc. I'm at Senra Said. We'll bow out of here. Just encourage everyone to check out the Going for Two Live Network. There's shows on every week. And, of course, Doc's book, Injuries Suck, but Your Fantasy Team Doesn't Have to. And hopefully this broadcast didn't either. No, it was. I definitely enjoy.
Check it out on Amazon. 4.9% aggregate review. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the game.
Enjoy the game. Bye.
Bye, everyone.